Hi there, it's Callum MacDonald from CSWIT. In this episode of Tech Today, I'm joined by Neil Stobart. The purpose of the video today, I've brought Neil on to just talk through an issue that I've been asked to solve many a times and that we keep getting inquiries about. How do we actually implement immutability into our data management strategy? I've brought Neil on as a speaker just to help guide businesses through how we can solve this challenge. Neil, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Colin. So as Colin mentioned, I'm Neil Stobart. I'm the VP of System Engineering at Cloudian. Cloudian very much focused around bringing scale-out storage, platforms to the market. Essentially, we've looked at what the public cloud vendors are doing, in particular, AWS and their S3 service. That's obviously a public cloud service. We have taken that technology and kind of brought that cloud storage technology, to allow our customers to consume that storage technology within their own data center. So it's kind of like a private, cloud storage platform.
Perfect. In the market now, we're hearing more and more about ransomware. What's the risk to businesses?
So the risk of ransomware, I think it has so much press coverage these days that people are becoming a lot more familiar with it. Ransomware actually is rated as it's in the top 5 biggest issues by the World Economic Forum when they met in 2019. So it's really high up on the agenda of a major cause of not just business disruption, but potentially a country's infrastructure disruption. We saw in the US just a few weeks ago about the Colonial Pipeline organization. If you looked at the pictures on TV, the queues at the petrol stations, they couldn't get the petrol. You think if you start as, other things on that angle, disruption to electricity supplies, healthcare, providers they have been targeted in the past. This is attacks on infrastructure, and it can be instigated by, the lone hacker wolf who wants to make, some money, or, is commonly reported in the news, it could be, state sanctioned. Russia often gets the blame, but I think equally, other countries are sort of doing it backwards and forwards in the cyber warfare. So the reality is that it's not just about, protecting your data protection is actually about protecting your business. Because Colonial Pipeline, I think, was reported to have paid $5 million in ransom. There's a software company that specialized in protection against ransomware. They've just recently paid $2.5 million ransom to the hackers to get the data back. So it's a huge item. So when you got press and real bad press coverage, if this happens to you. You haven't sort of, spent, the investment in that last line of defense that is vulnerable today. Obviously there's huge fines, and I think the ransom cost is way more than what you would spend on putting a solution in. And the reality is that if you can't access your data, then how long is your business going to last? So some organizations are absolutely now built around, the use of data. And if they can't get access to their data, business functions can't move on. We are all businesses, I think, today are now so reliant on IT systems. So, the first sign, that you'll get that you've been hacked by ransomware is that, you're trying to access your data, you get a pop-up screen saying you can't access data, we've encrypted it. You need to send us, some money, typically in, cryptocurrency. We'll unlock your data. Now, there's 2 challenges because, your data is, if the hacker has got access to the data, potentially they may even be able to kind of copy it off and then distribute it, into the wild. The reason why ransomware has become so much more popular with the hacking community is it's more insidious. You see a load of data being pulled out your data center, that's going to set a lot of alarm bells going.
I don't think people will be happy about that,
No, and basically your data just starts to get encrypted behind the scenes. And a new disturbing trend, and actually what we'll talk about a little bit more today, is that the hackers are going for the backup data first. So they'll encrypt all the backup data, and then they'll go for your primary data. Because if they went for the primary data first, you're probably going to realize that that data is under attack quite quickly, and maybe it's too late and that data has been encrypted, but you've got your backup to recover from. But if they go back first and then the primary, then actually they've got you in both places because you've got nothing to recover your data from.
So how do we actually truly protect against this threat?
So to truly protect against it, you essentially have to lock your data where it is, what the term immutable that you used right at the start, but it means that you cannot change that data once it's been written. So commonly in the industry, it's been termed worm. Write once, read many, and essentially, it's once it's been written, you just cannot change it. Now, that type of technology was normally associated with tape technology, tape storage technology. So once the data has been backed up, onto tape, you can actually take that tape out of the tape silo, go and put it in the cupboard, a fire safe, best practice, whatever. But now nobody can get to that tape because it is what we would term air-gapped. What we're trying to do with data immutability technology, and especially how we're doing it at Cloudian, is that we're kind of air-gapping online storage. We're just saying no matter what, you cannot change that data, and it's almost as if it had been taken out the system and put in the cupboard for protection.
Yeah, I think the problem is obviously tape technology. It's too slow these days. People need to get access to that data faster. So why is it important to keep the data online rather than offline?
Well, it's a great example of what I just said about moving that tape out to your safe, right? Because if you want to get access to that data, first off, you have to realize, catalog. I mean, if you've got 10,000 tapes sitting in the cupboard there, it's obviously you wouldn't just sit in a cupboard. You'd have it sort of barcoded. You'd be doing something a little bit smarter than just sticking it in the cupboard. But still, you've got to, someone's got to stand up and go and get that tape. Is it offsite? They've got to bring it back, load it up, recover the data back to disk, and then only then is it made available. With today's 24/7 operations, business cannot wait for that length of time, and they kind of call it time to recovery. How long does it take to recover my data? So online storing backup data on disk has been very popular for the last sort of 10, 15, even 20 years in some of the mainframe environments. But there's been things like virtual tape, has provided solutions. It's all been emulating tape in the past. We're looking at it from a completely different perspective now. With object storage, it can manage data in a different way. So essentially, what we're doing is we are locking down the object, putting a retention period on it, and we're just not allowing any modification until that time retention ends.
So is that the specific thing Cloudian does to solve the issue, or is there more to that?
Yeah, so I mean, we're going to look at it from a number of angles. So we use a technology called Object Lock, and that's part of the S3 API spec that was, that is actually invented by or written and maintained by Amazon Web Services. So Amazon Web Services obviously have that feature as well, and anybody's free to adopt, object storage. Object lock capability and bring it into their platform if it's so designed. We essentially built an object storage platform, a scale out storage platform with the S3 API at the very heart of what we do. And we did this in 2011 when AWS wasn't quite so popular as it is now. So whether that's a stroke of luck or whether it was genius on our part, I don't know. But we were really the first organization to bring Object Lock to the on-premise backup world. And Object Lock allows the application to talk to the storage system a lot more integrated. So if I look at Veeam backup software, for example, they support Object Lock. And what they'll do is they'll send a backup file to us and they'll say, we want that data locked for 40 days. And then the next one that comes in is going to be locked for 40 days. If you're doing this with tape storage or any other disk storage worm system, you'd have to lock the entire, volume or file system or tape to have the same retention period, whereas we're able to do it at a much more granular level and give the customer a lot more flexibility. So it's that, but then you need to protect against any hacker coming into our system and getting access to the data kind of under the covers. And it's not just a hacker, it could be an administrator, it could be a user. The user could do something accidentally. You could have a user that's really unhappy with you. about to leave and they just want to cause as much damage as possible. We actually put a secure shell around our platform so that it's not possible for anybody to see the data, and which means that any data that we've stored, we can take to a court of law and it will be considered as evidence as if it was written down on paper. And I don't think there's any, that's about the highest level of immutability rating that you can get. And we've been validated by multiple third parties on this.
Oh, fantastic. So, Cloudian, are you guys only focused on solving ransomware, or, you know, if we've got customers looking at the solution, what other value can you bring to them around data management?
Yeah, so it's not just about ransomware, absolutely. You know, we're an object storage platform. It's very much designed for large scale, you know, more focused on larger, you know, data files, larger objects. You know, we're not a storage system that's going to give you a million IOPS for 1K files, you know, for databases and running, you know, virtual machines. You know, we're about where, you know, your data is growing. So anything like, you know, big image repositories, video repositories. We work a lot with media customers, healthcare customers. I mean, you know, everybody stores so much data all the time now. You know, and you know, everyone's using their phone as a, you know, everyone's a music producer, everyone's a film director. You know, with these things, you literally, you know, I mean, I'm not going to tell you about a data that's come off this phone, and you know, I'm not particularly into taking photographs, doing music or video. You know, so there's some people that are going crazy. So it's about lots of data, and really, I would argue that we're probably the only platform that can scale up to past the exabyte scale platform. So what we found was that backup is a great use case for us. Because one, we're very scalable. You always need a lot of storage for backup. We really optimized on the throughput performance, you know, for when you're sending large objects. You know, we've got customers doing 20 gigabytes per second, you know, throughput. And for when you want to shrink your window, your backup window down, that's really important. And then we've also got built-in data protection. So we can have a, you know, multi-site cluster. And as the backup software writes into us, or any software writes into us, we automatically just distribute the data. And being a single namespace, it doesn't matter what fails. You have no downtime to your application. So people who are looking for, you know, to optimize uptime, you know, for throughput, larger data sets, I mean, you know, we can certainly help with that.
Fair enough. Most important question of the day: who's the best football team in the North East?
You'd have to go Sunderland AFC.
May I have Bill Gates on here next week, and you'd still be my favourite guest of all time with that answer. Perfect. Neil, I really appreciate the time you give us today and the insights you've been able to provide to people. I really hope you know, people have got some value out of this. There's going to be a link in the comment section below. If anyone wants to get any more information, you know, we'll follow up for a call. We can help your business address these challenges, show you some more. Just treat yourself and put in the details, and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye.